Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents The Past with me, your host Valerie, and sometime co-host Miss Purrington, although we are on location and we might be hearing from another cat. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. We started this podcast earlier this year. We love interviewing funny people and sharing their stories. We'll be bringing you articles and podcasts featuring the best in Austin comedy in all its shapes and formats. I like doing these interviews in two parts, the past and the current. Consider these bite-sized ways for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. And now the past with our guest, Enzo Priesnitz. Did I get it?
Yeah, I nailed it.
Awesome.
You're going to edit in applause, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. There we go. Thank you. That works as applause too. I don't know what that was.
Sure, yeah, that was Alexa chiming in and...
Alexa, good podcast jokes for an intro. She's not
listening anymore.
All right.
Well, much like this podcast, there's really not that many people that listen. But anyway, we're so glad you're here.
Alexa's listening.
That's true, she is listening.
Let's see if we can get her to transcribe the whole thing.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. Well, Enzo, I like to kick these off by asking my guests to pick one word to describe their past.
I guess like obsessions. I don't know. As a kid, I would really get into things.
Yeah.
And almost like too much.
Well, I have a kid, and he's obsessed with Legos, so I kind of get that.
Yeah, it only stopped when I was like maybe 22. When I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't only talk about fly fishing to people, or only talk about model airplanes.
Yeah.
It's giving off a real Asperger's vibe. Yeah, as a kid, I would just find things, and then for years at a time, that would be the only thing. Absolutely the only thing I would spend all my time, money, and energy on. Yeah. And I was awful at school, so all I would think about all day at school is like, my first thing, I guess, was model trains. So like in elementary school and embarrassingly after elementary school, and I still have them all to this day. I don't know what to do with them. But I would like draw, like when we were supposed to be in class, would sit there drawing, like sketching out plans on how I'm going to expand on, this little town that I'd made and all that. And to the point where it was really, really detrimental to my school. And that's like all I would do. And then I started fishing, and then I fished literally every day throughout high school. I was such a dork. In my backpack, I would always have a 8-piece fly rod folded up, and during lunch, my school was right next to a lake. During lunch every day, I would go there, and then after school, I'd go back, and it was the only thing I could talk about for years. And I would do competitions and guiding and go to Colorado and stuff. And then I don't know, I stopped after. I guess my brain chemistry changed, or maybe I got burnt out on or maybe I saw through it, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't I should throttle it back. Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Here, Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay, all right.
Central Austin.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to travel far to start your comedy career.
No. In the ideal city for comedy.
Yeah.
For starting comedy, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Did you... in the midst of your different obsessions, did you pick up on comedy at all when you were growing up?
I always really loved comedy, stand-up specifically. Like I would always stay up really late when my parents went to bed so I could watch Comedy Central Uncensored, because they would do all the uncensored... Oh, hey, kitty. All the uncensored comedy specials, and like I was... Yeah, I don't know if it got quite to that level, but always in the periphery, I was like, I really love this. Like, I loved Dave Attell from an age when I shouldn't have been listening to Dave Attell.
Well, that averages out with the model train obsession. That might have been something to give up sooner, but the uncensored stuff.
Yeah. So I would talk about trains and then, like, joke about blowjobs, which don't really go together.
No, they don't.
No, not at all. That is it. Yeah. I didn't. It's making sense now. I didn't have a lot of friends when I was little.
Making all the connections.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Comedy Central, and did you know from an early age how amazing Austin was as a comedy town?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was just obsessed with the comics that I would see on Comedy Central.
Okay.
So, like, I remember watching Live at the Purple Onion, the Zach Galifianakis special, and like downloading that, and then I'd always show my dad Louis C.K. and the food guy.
Food guy.
Jim Gaffigan. My dad loved Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah, that's the food guy, yeah.
And this was like when I was 13 and 14. And yeah, so they were big enough to be on Comedy Central, but they weren't like Chris Rock level yet.
Yeah.
And I thought at that time, I was like, oh, I'm watching like underground comedy because this is late night and they're not big names. But I didn't know that I was literally watching the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Like to get to being on Comedy Central, there's nothing really underground about that.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's still really awesome. I still loved all that. I mean, everything I learned about sex and sexuality, I learned from watching Comedy Central, like late night stand up.
Yeah.
That's literally all the like practical details of
funny.
that stuff. Yeah,
Nobody has ever made that kind of a confession.
because I mean,
that makes
oh yeah, I mean, it affected like my losing my virginity, everything. Just because like when you learn in school is like part A goes to part B, child comes out, then you got to fill in all the rest of the blanks.
Right.
And so I just had, the dirtiest people on television fill those blanks in, which, I don't know if that was good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess a lot of kids get that from porn,
Right.
but I got it from awful dick jokes, or the best dick jokes,
Right.
actually, I'd say.
Yeah, I think as a parent weighing one versus the other, I'd rather my kid get it from comedy than
Porn.
I think.
Yeah, I wasn't big into porn.
Yeah.
Wasn't. No, just kidding. Now?
Now.
Big time.
You heard it here first, or probably not first.
Yeah, probably not first.
Okay, so living in Austin, great comedy scene. You're watching comedy. At what point do you start thinking about performing comedy?
Being like a big comedy fan, even before I was doing stand-up, I loved Moon Tower. And so I went to Moon Tower Comedy Festival one year. And then I think it was the year I saw Hannibal Buress and Ari Shaffir. And then later I went to the hotel, that bar, the after party. And I was just hanging out on the upper deck, and I was sitting in a circle of people who I should not have been sitting with. It was Ari Shaffir, I think Nate Bargatze, or Dan Soder, Nate Bargatze, and I wasn't even I don't think I was even familiar with them, even though they're huge.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in that circle of people bothering them. I should not have, they probably did not want me sitting there, but there was also a bunch of other people who weren't comics.
Yeah.
And we were all going around. My friend was being very embarrassing. And so I was like, dude, you got to get out of here. You're too drunk.
Yeah.
And so he left for a little bit. And then I got to sit there and I was listening to them. And I was just like in awe. And then I told one story, which I'm sure was not that great. But there were other people who weren't comics. And so when we were leaving, this lady went up to all of us. She's like, it's so great talking to you. Where are you performing? And Ari was like, this place and this place. And where are you? And Dan was like, I'm opening here and here. And she asked me, where are you performing? I was like, oh, I'm not a comic. And she said, oh, you should be. And then walked away. And I was like, oh, what?
You just got
Hell
validated.
yeah. Yeah, which I'm sure every comic with an earshot of that was like, dude, get out of here. What are you? I'm sure that would have been my response.
Yeah.
No, don't tell him that. Stupid kid. But then I really took that to heart, and then I just started going to open mics.
Yeah. Do you remember your first or how did you kind of going back to the maybe not realization of what a great city you're in for comedy? How did you even find out about an open mic?
Well, that's a good question. I think I tried once. Yeah, I tried to go to the Velveeta room once, and I asked the door guy, when are the open mics? And he said, you need to go to Last Gas Comedy. And I think from there I found I think that was Pandora's box.
Yeah. I don't think there is a single recording of Comedy Wham that
Doesn't
not
mention Last Gas.
Last
Thank
Gas.
you, Karina.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
what was your first open mic? Was it the Valve?
No, I think it was surprisingly Cold Town, which is kind of
Okay.
I think I just got lucky on the sign up because any new comic who tried to get on Cold Town knows you apply or not apply, but you email in 8 times and get Maggie Mae's sorry hun response before she's like, all right, we'll give you a shot.
Oh, wow.
And I went up and I did all right in front of 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
So I told a story about a prank call I used to really like to do, and that did okay, but it was okay enough for me to be like, maybe I'll give this another shot. Yeah. And then after that, it was Kick Butt Coffee when Pat Dean would host it, and he would sit behind you on his computer with a microphone, and he would just talk shit about the comics going up and off the stage, as you were there. And I did so horrifically bad on that. I can't believe I ever went back out. It was one of the most jarring experiences.
Because of what he was influencing? Or
it was just something that I thought I'd tried a different story, and I thought it was going to be so funny. I was so I thought I was going to be like, dude, when people hear this story, things are going to happen. Yeah. And then every pause I thought I would have to take for laughter, it was just seeing people's discomfort and people leaving the coffee shop. And then I got off stage, and Pat Dean wasn't like, that guy fucking sucked. But he was like, all right. And it was basically his little words saying Jesus Christ, that was bad.
Oh.
And so, yeah, which it's kind of necessary for a host to do. You got to address when someone just ruins everything for the next couple comics. But then I don't remember my 4th and 5th, probably Cherrywood.
And you hadn't done any performance up until that time?
Well, if you want me to get real embarrassing, I
let's do it.
Yeah, so for a while, and this is not something I'm super proud of, but I was a electronic DJ. I was a drum and bass DJ for a few years. And there was one night, this was actually right before that lady told me that thing at Moon Tower. I was mixing at a nightclub that was awful. I think it's closed now. It was called Headhunters. And I was mixing drum and bass, and there was maybe 15 people there. And I think a few of them were my friends, and something went wrong with the sound system. And so then I stood on stage, or the little. Yeah. It actually was a stage. I was elevated, but I got on the microphone and just tried to be funny while they fixed the stuff. Oh. I just made fun of my friend in the audience and told a story about, getting guys on Craigslist to send naked pictures to his phone once because, I don't know, I just thought it'd be funny. And people there liked it. Not that that's the equivalent to stand-up at all, but I was like, whoa, maybe I should try this. Because in the back of my mind, always watching stand-up and loving stand-up, there's always a part of you as a stand-up fan that's like, yeah, maybe I could do that.
Right.
And so then I think that might have been the catalyst for... And then that lady saying that thing at Moon Tower, 2 not very good reasons to get to start going to open mics. But
well, I actually know somebody who was a DJ, fairly well regarded in their particular area, and they described the influence that you have as a DJ. And maybe you didn't feel this for yourself, but you really have an influence on a room.
Yeah,
and that's very analogous to what a comic has. It can have an influence. You can have an influence on a room, depending on.
I guess if you zoom way out, you are providing the entertainment.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But I was never great at DJ. I wasn't really good at it. It was just something I thought was really fun, and I stopped doing because. Just being around DJs, the worst human beings to ever be around.
Well, you're talking about my father, who was, a DJ. Thanks a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just giving you crap.
How much would he brag about being a DJ?
No,
it's kind of.
It wasn't even him.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't like being around people with big egos.
Yeah.
And that is.
Yeah.
To me, like, after seeing how easy DJing is, like, having other people who are like, I am the shit. It's like, wait, I figured this out in a few months. Like, I'm not, you have this huge ego and you didn't even really do anything. You just downloaded the right software.
And you really got a good flavor of the contrast with comics. And my experience is comics, I mean, even at those high levels, like the Ari Shaffir level, they're really down to earth mostly. And very nice,
I think that's why,
and approachable. And I mean, I love Moon Tower for that experience that you get to just
bother comics. It's awesome.
That's my favorite thing, is to bother comics, which is why this exists. Yeah, and Moon Tower next year is the 6th year. So this is, I mean, somewhat, that had to have been the first or second Moon Tower that you...
Let me think. I've been doing, that was probably 3 years ago.
Okay.
I probably did my first open mic 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't know. We can just look up when Hannibal Buress was on.
Right, we could.
I think it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that festival is awesome.
It is.
They always bring podcast, like my favorite podcasts, and it's a cool thing, cool part of Austin.
Right. You sound, based on how you were describing your childhood and things that have interested you, like you might be a dabbler. Do you think that comedy is something that you could see yourself sticking with for a really, really long time?
Yeah, because as I said, I think that's not part of me anymore. I can hold a conversation with somebody without mentioning, whatever I'm obsessed with at that point in my life. I kind of wish I hadn't grown out of it. I wish I could attack comedy with the same vigor that I had for any of these other things I was really into. That's why when I know that, like, I've talked to Danny Goodwin and I believe I talked to Andrew Dismukes about this, and they said the same thing, that once they said it, I was like, oh, you guys are good. You guys are set, because they said that, I've never felt like this, quoting Danny Goodwin, I've never felt like this about any other thing. Like, this is all I want to do. This is everything I want to do, and I'm obsessed with it. Which, actually, that might not be an exact quote, but... And then I remember that's exactly how I felt about, like, competition shooting or fishing or model planes or whatever. And, if you'd asked me a few years ago at the time when I was obsessed with any of that stuff, that's exactly what I would have said. Mm-hmm. And now I don't have that about really anything, which is, I don't know, good and bad. Yeah. Probably bad. But, I guess now that I won't burn out on it, because it's... Right. Although I still love doing all those things. I've never really gotten burnt out on them, but I'm obviously not as passionate about them as I was. Yeah.
I guess you open yourself up to exploring things as opposed to just doing that deep dive and not letting go.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I'd like to think that comedy. I think, it's so different, and it's so, modular is not the right word. So dynamic. There's so much to it that I think it's something that I could really love for a very long time. Yeah. Well. And I love watching comedy, and I love being in that scene and talking to comics so much that I think so. I think comedy's here to stay.
I kind of like what you just said, and I almost want to start wrapping this one up, because you were just talking about there's so many things in comedy, and there's a project that you're involved with that I'd love to talk about and spend a lot of time talking about in the current. If we start thinking about wrapping up, we've gone through your first few open mics, and you sticking with it for several years. Let me ask about the first time you thought about doing the funniest person in Austin, which is a contest that happens every year at Cap City. It brings more and more and more comics every year, it seems. And I don't know how long you've given that one a shot, but when did you decide, I need to try this out?
When I'd been doing open mics for probably 5 or 6 months, FPIA came up, and just hearing other comics talk about it, I knew it was like a big deal.
Yeah.
And like I kind of understood what it was, and I skipped out on doing it on purpose. I didn't want to do it. And I remember talking to Cody Greenlee about it, and he was like, "Why? It's worth a shot. Just go up. You get to perform in front of a big crowd." And I remember saying to him, "There's nothing I am saying right now that I'm proud of. None of my comedy right now. Even I know it's not good. I know that I'm a beginner. This is not anything I want recorded or said to a room full of people."
Yeah.
And then it came around the next year, and the next year I was like, some of these bits I actually do like, or some of these bits I've worked hard on, and I think that they're at least good. Mm-hmm. Like that story I have, the penis measuring story. I had been working on that one for a few months and done it at showcases. Seemingly always went over pretty well. And there's some parts in it that, even it is just a 4-minute dick joke, there's parts in it that I was proud of, that I thought, that I, in some way thought like, oh, this kind of is my voice. This is kind of different. What I said, this isn't like maybe I approach this a little different than someone else would. So then
it's not crude, I guess would be one way to.
Well,
I would catch
it's fairly crude.
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I have a weird tolerance.
And then there were some other jokes in there that, like my opening and my closing joke, which I thought were fairly good. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go for it this year. Mm-hmm. I went in and it was awesome. It was nerve-wracking. And
so this year was your first year to give it a shot, is that right?
2015. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are pretty, I mean, you shared with me the video of it. To me, that was a pretty polished set. So
yeah. I feverishly practiced it over and over again to make sure I didn't go over.
Yeah.
There were parts I cut out of one of the main chunk of it because I didn't want to go over. And I felt good about it, and I remember getting off stage, and Jared McCorkle was like, "You did it. There's no way you're not moving on. That went so well." And then I didn't move on.
Oh.
And I was like, it was my first year.
Yeah.
I remember watching Danny Goodwin. It was his first year. He'd been doing comedy, forgive me, Danny, but I think maybe 3 or 4 months. He was like really new into it. And his went so well. And I remember like it was the first night of FPIA and they announced he was moving on and standing up just going, yeah! And then running up to him and hugging him, like being so happy. Because I loved Dan. I absolutely was in love with his comedy. And I talked to him a few times and thought he was such a nice, cool kid. Yeah. And was infuriated at how much younger he was than me and how much better, like astoundingly better. It came to him so much more naturally, which goes back to, I think, what he was saying of it being his first real obsession, which, worked out well that year worked out well for him. I think he's gonna do good stuff.
And you mentioned earlier Andrew Dismukes, who, same thing. And I don't know if you got to sit in on the finals, but I mean, this guy's so young and he's competing with these people that are
How can you be that funny with so little life experience?
Right.
It's very upsetting. I mean, I love him, but fuck him. But also I love him.
Yeah. I'm going to blacklist him from this.
He couldn't, couldn't go into bars except to perform comedy.
Yeah, that's wild. It's just, but that's kind of the diversity of the comedy community too. Is just so many different backgrounds and ages, and
then also watching Andrew Clarkston, another Andrew who's also incredible. Mm-hmm. If we're just talking about young people who are infuriatingly good at comedy, Andrew Clarkston. I remember seeing him, and the first time, and Pat Dean brought him up and was like, give a big underage juvenile welcome to Andrew Clarkston. And like he was, I think, just out of high school. And
oh my gosh.
He went up and I was like, wow, he's what a stage presence. What confidence. And like right out of high school, I would not be comfortable doing that. And I remember just being like, God damn it. Yeah. I am.
But don't judge yourself by others. I mean,
it's hard not to. When you look at like my class that I'm coming up with, I'm definitely just due to time constraints. All of those, Allison O'Connor and Danny, both Andrews, Nick, all those people that I'd consider in my class of like 2.5 years. Yeah, they're all work much harder at this than I do, because they, they're students. Okay. They have time to. Or, they pick jobs that allow them to go to... They all put comedy first, which I can't say is the same, unfortunately, is the same for me. Mm-hmm. So I I don't get upset with them like, oh, they got booked on this and I didn't. I constantly remind myself like, oh yeah, they do 2 or 3 open mics a night. They're constantly working at this when I do maybe 4 a week just because of other things, just because time, you know. I don't know. It's without a doubt humbling to watch them, and I wish I could be on their level.
Yeah. Well, you will put in the practice at some point.
Yeah, I think I just progress a little slower.
Yeah.
Because I don't have as much time.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Maybe.
All right. Well, let's start wrapping up, and we teased before the cool project that you're involved with.
Yeah.
And people will just have to listen to the second part in order to.
You're gonna want to hear this.
You are gonna want to hear.
We're talking incest.
Absolutely, the best topic ever.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a wrap on Comedy Wham Presents The Past with our guest, Enzo Priesnitz. Tell us where we could find you on the interwebs, upcoming shows.
Facebook, you can find me. I don't have a Twitter. Yeah.
This day and age.
I know. I don't want another reason to look at my phone. If you want to see my not comedy stuff, you can Instagram, Bluegill Forge. At Bluegill Forge.
That's worth checking out that Instagram.
Oh, you looked?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's impressive stuff.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
We'll have to, maybe if you want to talk about it, we can talk
All
about
right.
it.
I've got some stuff in the car.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
You can find me also coming up, me, Andrew Clarkson, Danny Goodwin. I have a podcast that'll be coming out in the next few weeks. Ooh. We have a couple of episodes recorded.
Nice.
It is a hot cast, people, let me tell you.
Do you have a name for it?
Gross Lonely Boys.
Nice.
Yeah, coming out on Body Tape International.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, Ethan.
Why should we
awesome.
care?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll keep an ear out for that.
Sweet.
It's a fun time.
Yeah. Any upcoming shows that you want to plug?
No.
All right.
Open mind. Just, Cherrywood or Cold Town.
Cool. Listen to part 2 for more information about what Enzo is up to today. You've been listening to Comedy Wham Presents The Past, hosted by me, Valerie. Be sure to visit comedywham.com and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram @ComedyWham. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Enzo.
Thank you.